Well, hello, everybody. It's Judy Matejczyk, Life Mastery Consultant and World Class Paradigm Shifter. It's Transformation Tuesday. I know you're all waiting for this every week. Yeah. Well, let me be the first to welcome you to this one day. This day. And what if this was the day that you totally transformed and changed? Would you like that? All right, great. I love it. Let me make sure I have all the buttons pushed. Yep. And so just what is Transformation Tuesday and why would we even want to do this anyway? We've been coming to you every Tuesday since March of 2020, and our desire, our burning desire, and our expectation is to shift and uplift the planet. One small idea, one action at a time. Yes, I love it. Well, so it's October 2025, and our topic for October is falling upward. Falling upward. Let's take a deep breath into what that might possibly mean. Falling upward. And I must say, I'm still vibing. And I was at a women's retreat, Sacred Vibes, this weekend with the Unity Women. And there were times I was falling and being caught and reminding of like what is the truth here, as that's the whole thing in when you're in this spiral of becoming. So we're in this spiral of our upward mobility of falling upward. So let me pull this up. Okay, so today's topic, and your guest speaker is me. We're talking about the spirituality of failure and growth. So I want to thank you for being here. And I'm so thrilled to talk to you about this profound concept that has resonated with so many of us, falling upward. And it's taken from a book by Richard Rohr. Now, Rohr is a Franciscan priest and a well regarded author. And he delves into the idea that our failures and challenges can lead us to deeper spiritual growth. So, today, in this short time, we're going to explore how this journey of life often evolves, embracing our failures, understanding the significance of suffering, and ultimately finding meaning and purpose in all of our experiences. So, you ready? All right. First part, the two halves of life. Two halves of life. What are concepts? So, we're going to start by discussing his concept that life has two halves. And Rohr suggests that our lives are divided into two distinct phases. In the first half of life, we focus on building our identity, achieving success, being the good mother, being the provider, and seeking all of this external validation. Now, this phrase is often about climbing that ladder of success, getting those awards, and whether that means any kind of career achievement, educational PhDs and accolades, or social recognition. And we strive to define ourselves based on what we accomplished. I just spent the weekend with so many women who are in that first half of life. And it was it was awesome for me. I am not in my first half of life. I think I'm just starting the second half of my life. But I wanted to talk to you about that shift. Um, what I was noticing, and this is me, my perception of people, women in their first half of life, was this thing called perfectionism and getting things right. And I want to tell you about these t-shirts because they had sleeves and everything. And it's hot here in Texas, and I just wanted to rip the sleeves off. So that's cool. And I noticed that other people were taking scissors and cutting it exact here and making it here and making and doing it exactly right. And I was fascinated by that. And they were talking about their perfectionism. And I'm like, wow, not that that's right or wrong. And possibly my life could have been maybe if I was into perfectionism a little bit more. But anyway, that's the first half of life, like that seeking, seeking, seeking. So let's take a deep breath in, and here I'm going to talk, y'all, about this whole second half of life where the shift occurs. And we begin to realize that true fulfillment comes not from external validation, but from this internal growth. This phase is about letting go of the ego, embracing vulnerability, and seeking deeper meaning beyond material success. Now, I can relate to this transition. And let me tell you about a moment in time last October where I had decided to take myself on a silent weekend retreat by myself to Topanga Canyon, which is on the California coast, Topanga Canyon, right here. And I stayed in a little cabin up high in the mountains with this outdoor shower with the moon and everything. And I felt so quiet and listening and getting that full moon energy. And I had decided to just listen to my internal voice the whole time. I didn't have anybody else to please but me. What is it that's seeking? So I woke up in the morning and I drove down the canyon and right into the Pacific Ocean is right there. And it's the beach, the Pacific Palisades beach, which had so much meaning later on. But I parked in the beach and I decided to wonder. I don't know if you've ever done this. Wonder, wander, and wonder. I was wandering and wandered in wonder. And I saw in the distance a group of surfers. Surfers fascinate me. And there was, I don't know, close to 100 of them. And they were all gathered there in that one spot. And I decided to just sit and watch, just watch. And they were getting these red roses and with their surfboards. And I sat in a distance and watched. And as they swam out into the ocean and formed a big circle out in the ocean with their surfboards. And I realized that I was watching a memorial service. Um, I just was in awe and just, I can't explain the feeling, but it was like uh, being able to watch an honoring of one's life. I didn't know who it was, didn't matter, but an honoring of a life. And then I watched them come back in and talk about the person. And that same day, I went over and just sat on the beach and I watched a mom teaching her little son surfing. Now, it was one of those times where, like, oh, I'm going to come back to this place in the future because I only had a weekend, I only have this much time. Um, So I went back out there in January, and guess what? That was a whole area that went up in flames with the fires. And it was a wake up call that made me question what truly matters in my life. Hmm. really matters in my life. So the second part is embracing failure. I want to talk about failure. In our culture, failure is often stigmatized. We're conditioned to view it as something to be avoided at all costs. But Richard Rohr challenges this notion, suggesting that failure is not just a setback, it's a necessary part of growth and transformation. So consider the stories of well-known figures who faced significant failures before achieving that success. J.K. Rowling was rejected by multiple publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Steve Jobs was ousted from Apple, the very company he founded, before returning to lead it to unprecedented heights. So their journeys remind us that failure can be a stepping stone to greatness. So I encourage you all right now to take a deep breath and to view your own failures through a different lens. Perhaps you've taken a fall. Now, and you've started beating yourself about falling. And perhaps we'll shift and look at a different lens. Each setback is an opportunity for learning and spiritual development. So take a second, ask yourself, what lessons can I take from my failures? Now, let's explore this whole role of suffering in our lives. Richard Rohr emphasizes that suffering is intrinsic to that human experience. It's something that we all face, yet we often resist it or try to avoid it. However, Rohr suggests that by embracing our suffering, we can cultivate greater compassion and understanding. When we allow ourselves to feel our pain, do those blubbery cries, we create space for healing and growth. This process can deepen our connection with ourselves first, and then our connection with others. So take a moment and reflect on something of suffering that initially felt so overwhelming. Over the past couple years, I've had the blessing and opportunities to mentor and coach mothers who have lost a child to addiction. That suffering is overwhelming. And it was through that experience that I learned empathy. And I also learned resilience because I watched these women be shaped into stronger, resilient women, and it shapes who they are today. So now I want to talk about finding meaning and perfect. So, and once again, this is in the second half of life, and we're beginning to search for true meaning and purpose. Now, this phase encourages us to look beyond societal expectations and reflect on what genuinely brings you joy and fulfillment. Ooh, second part of life, joy and fulfillment. All right, so take a minute. What brings you joy? What would you love? Sometimes bring me joy, I might laugh, is like barbecue potato chips and chocolate. just going somewhere and indulging in that, it just brings joy to my mouth and reminds me of when I was a kid. And I go down to the candy store and mix those. That brings me joy. I know that's something really little. There's other things that bring me, what brings you joy? A card in the mail, and and there's Richard Rohr suggests several practices that can help you explore your spirituality. Now, meditation. So, what if in your morning meditation practice, you meditated on what brings you joy? Another practice is journaling and community involvement. That's another key. Don't you love it when you're going out and you can, like at potluck Sundays we have at our church? I love doing the dishes. Um, I don't necessarily like to cook anything special. I love to eat everybody and just watching the creations of what they bring to potluck. And I love doing the dishes because and that's a part of community involvement. It's there. Each of those practices, meditation, journaling, community involvement, it invites us to pause, reflect, and connect with your inner self. So let's do an experiment this week. I want to challenge you to take a moment and think about what brings you joy. What makes you feel alive? What are the activities that resonate with your soul? Okay. Now go over to your calendar. Might be filled with all kinds of stuff. Okay. Go over to your calendar and schedule a whole day of you time, a whole day of joy for you. Believe me, everybody will really appreciate it when you do that. Okay. Schedule a whole day of you time. So these these reflections can guide you toward a more meaningful life, falling upward. So, in conclusion of this October 14th, 2025 Transformation Tuesday, we've explored the key themes of falling upward from Richard Rohr, the two halves of life, the importance of embracing failure, the role of suffering, and the pursuit of meaning. And so, as I leave you here today, I would love you to ponder this question: what does falling upward look like in your life today? So, private message me and let's set up a time to talk and explore what could be calling you for your next phase. Embrace the challenges, learn from failures, and seek a deeper meaning in your experiences. Thank you so much for always being here at Transformation Tuesday. And remember, your life matters. And until next week, dream big, dream bold, accomplish brilliantly, over and out. Judy Matejczyk, Life Mastery Consultant, world class paradigm shifter.